I would like to put on record my huge admiration for our teachers, our teaching assistants, lecturers, and everyone who dedicates themselves to education in our schools and colleges in the Midlands, but also beyond. They deserve so much better than how they've been treated by successive Conservative governments. And I'd also like to put on record my absolute support and solidarity with the teachers and education staff at their union, the National Education Union, as they fight for fair pay and the future for our schools and colleges. They do not take action lightly. They take it as a last resort, and only because they've been pushed to breaking point while watching their pupils be failed by government ministers. They're taking action because they're committed to education, not in spite of it, and polling shows that the public know this too, with the majority backing striking teachers. And Mr. Chairman, I sought this debate because I want to address this simple fact, that our schools and colleges are in crisis. And it's no mystery as to why they are in this state. Between 2010 and 2020, school spending per pupil in England fell by 9% in real terms. Funding per student aged 16 to 18 in further education and sixth form colleges fell by 14%. And funding per school student in sixth forms fell by a whopping 28%. The consequences are all too clear to see. Secondary school sizes are at the highest they've been in over 40 years, while primary class sizes are the highest in Europe. And at the same time as pay was cut year on year, teachers have worked more unpaid overtime than any other profession in the UK. The impact of this on students and staff is hard to overstate. Teachers who went into the profession because they love education, they love teaching, are finding it harder and harder to go on. One teacher from the West Midlands told me, and I quote, "The expectations are huge, the pressure unmanageable, and the rewards diminishing in every sense. It's becoming harder and harder to find the positive every single day." Another told me of the vicious cycle that develops, where underfunding results in bigger classes and less support for students with special needs. And this leads to more pressure on teachers and more staff absence. And the demands go way beyond what we should expect of teachers. While their pay has been cut, government underfunding means that teachers are increasingly having to dip into their own pockets to buy supplies. 1 in 5 are now estimated to buy everything from books and pens to rulers and glue sticks, with nearly half even buying food, clothes, and even soap for poorer pupils, stepping in where the state has catastrophically failed. All of this has a very predictable result. With staff recruitment and retention in crisis, this is set to get worse, with a quarter of all teachers and school leaders saying that they were considering leaving the profession for reasons other than retirement. This is backed up by the government's own statistics, which show that retention rates have declined since 2011, and fewer than 60% of teachers are still in the profession after 10 years. And recruitment is in dire straits too, with the government now reaching less than 60% of its own target for secondary recruitment, and for some subjects, it's even worse. Just 36% for modern foreign languages, just 30% for computing, and an astonishing just 17% for physics. This, of course, impacts learning, with a rising proportion of lessons being taught by teachers who don't have the relevant qualification. This problem has gotten so bad that one Coventry teacher told me of a student who by Wednesday had 10 out of their 15 lessons taught by cover staff. And the crisis in staff recruitment and retention is perhaps no severely felt in Coventry than at Coventry College. Coventry College recently announced that it would cease offering apprenticeship provision from August, citing the extreme difficulty in recruiting and retaining teaching staff. This will have a severe impact on young people in the city, depriving them of opportunities, and it also runs contrary to the government's own skills mission, as set out in the Levelling Up policy agenda. Mr. Chairman, again, there is no mystery about what's happening with recruitment and retention. Educators are voting with their feet after working harder and harder for less and less, because alongside rising workloads, teachers have seen their pay cut year after year, totaling around 13% in real terms since 2010. And the government's pay offer was only going to make things worse. In September, it offered a pay rise of 5%, when inflation was of course running at 12.6%. So that so-called pay rise was really a 7% pay cut. And their latest offer of an additional one-off cash payment of £1,000 wouldn't even be consolidated into pay next year and is alone dwarfed by the average energy bill. And what makes this even worse, according to NEU calculations, these proposals aren't even fully funded. Instead, they require most schools to make further cuts to pay for it. So, Mr. Chairman, it is little wonder why the latest pay offer was rejected by a staggering 98% of voting NEU members. This is a decisive rejection, which surely must make the government come back to the negotiation table with an above-inflation pay rise. This will only start to undo the damage of a decade of falling pay, just as it needs to restore pay for further education teachers and help address the severe challenges faced by colleges across the country, including at Coventry College.